Hello and welcome back to Should I Buy Games. Today I am very excited to talk about God of War on the PlayStation 4. God of War is the fourth main entry in the God of War franchise, but is more of a hard reboot for the series. There are of course still callbacks to tie the games together, but new players should have no problem picking up the story from here. God of War had a long and tumultuous development cycle, as Sony Santa Monica went deep into development on a sci-fi game that was then scrapped. The studio was in serious trouble, and many, including myself, feared that they may be on their last leg if they didn't knock God of War out of the park. Those fears were quickly quelled as reviews started rolling in, as many 10s and masterpieces were thrown its way. I came into God of War with exceedingly high expectations because of this, and yet, somehow, I was still blown away. God of War is a game that should be went into blindly. Avoid all videos at all costs if you can. Because of this, I will only be including in this video review footage from the very opening of the game to help completely strip out any spoilers. God of War leaves its Greek mythology roots behind as it sets Kratos and son in the world of the Norse gods. This change fits nicely, as the world is just as foreign to you as it is to Kratos. The world may feel much larger, but the story still somehow manages to stay laser focused on what's important, and that is the bond between Kratos and his son Atreus. Kratos has never been a likable character, but over the runtime of the game, as Atreus begins to break down his walls, we begin to see the cracks in his self-reliant temperament. If the older God of War games are about Kratos ascending to become a god, then this one is about him coming back down to Earth to regain some of the humanity that he lost. Kratos and Atreus are both amiable characters from the jump, and as you watch them grow, they become all the more captivating. Every tidbit of information you get, every line delivered, and every wonderfully acted mannerism fleshes out these characters in a way that made me feel like I truly knew them. This is padded by impeccable writing not only for Kratos and Atreus, but for every character you meet along the way. Each of these characters has their own motivations and complexities, and seeing them grow is just as interesting as the father-son dynamic. These characters talk like real people, and from the moment they opened their mouths, I became entranced in what they were saying. There were times when we were traveling in the boat, and as I arrived at my destination, somebody would be telling a story, and I would just sit and wait because I was so infatuated by the tale that they were spinning. It's moments like these that make the story feel intimate, but as you get to the much bigger set pieces, you are reminded that you are part of something much grander. The over-the-top moments that have been a staple of the God of War series are fewer and further between, but when they finally come around, they hit harder than ever. Every moment feels earned, as the pacing of God of War is top-notch. Whenever I had a question I wanted answered, I was held on the line just long enough for me to be starving by the time answers came. Whenever I felt I had a grasp on where the story was going, I would have the rug pulled out from under me in surprising and thoughtful ways. This God of War is the first time the series has delved into a pseudo-open world. It mixes the linear storyline of previous games perfectly within a live open area that invites exploration and inspires wonder. Throughout the 30-hour runtime of God of War, there are moments of opportunity that call for me to go off the beaten path, as Atreus will remind you that it is okay to take some time to yourself to dive into the world around you. In many games, side missions can feel like chores, but here the developers tailored the secondary experiences to feel natural and worth your time. Every bit of exploration made me understand the world more, as diving into the game's collectibles and discoverable lore displays how much God of War is willing to respect your time and reward you for putting in the extra effort to explore every nook of the world. And it doesn't hurt that the game is a marvel to look at to boot. The story and world building are only bolstered by some of the best third-person action gameplay that video games has to offer. Kratos is much slower in comparison to how you may have been able to play the older God of War games, but this new style fits the more even-tempered character we have in front of us. This is exemplified in the way your main weapon, the Leviathan Axe, works. In previous God of War games, the main mode of combat was to throw yourself into each battle headfirst and murder everything in your path. Now, thanks to the Leviathan Axe, which has the ability to be thrown and recalled back to your hand at the press of a button, the option to hang back and plan how you're going to tackle a situation makes for exciting opportunities with each encounter. Throwing the Leviathan Axe is one of the most satisfying feelings I've experienced in a video game, as watching it hit enemies on the way back and slam into your hand is a visceral and intuitive experience. It's something that didn't get old even after 100 throws. The axe is often used in puzzle solutions, which adds to the weapon's versatility. These puzzles are generally easy enough to figure out even for someone as puzzle challenged as myself. I never felt that they took long enough for me to get frustrated, but I always felt like I was challenged enough to feel like I accomplished something. Even though the game has become more deliberate, doesn't mean the brutality is lost. When Kratos gets up closer to enemies and starts to hack away towards a brutal finishing move, you see gleams of the old God of War shine through. The gameplay only gets better, as you have a considerable amount of customization to assemble the playstyle you want. Different abilities are unlocked through experience and scavenging the world for its many collectibles. As you get further in the game, you will have a slew of abilities to choose from to handle situations as you please. But at the end, as the difficulty began to ramp up, I was consistently switching out for new abilities and throwing in new skills to see what would work. Another layer of the combat is added with the addition of Atreus in battles. Atreus isn't your typical side companion, as he is perfectly capable of holding his own in battle. There's never a need to babysit or watch over him. It's actually quite the contrary. Atreus started out as something that I felt was tacked on, and I mainly focused on leveling up Kratos. As time went on and I began to get used to the gameplay, I realized just how essential Atreus is. His ability to stun enemies with arrows so I could get up close to build up their gauge to unlock a finishing move, or his ability to call in a pack of wolves made him a staple in every battle. His attacks were not only fun to use, but add to the overall narrative, as I quickly realized that Kratos needs Atreus to survive as much as Atreus needs him. All of this violence is put into context with the eyes of Atreus, and the way Kratos uses it as a way to teach his son valuable lessons. This is one of my favorite things about God of War. It attempts to weave every aspect together to make it one robust package. The story informs the combat, as the combat displays the budding father and son relationship, which in turn affects the side characters around them as the side characters help to flesh out the world. It's this delicate balance of interwoven world building and gameplay that makes God of War feel like a game that was created with pinpoint accuracy, to strip out everything that may annoy the player and only leave the strips of magic in their place. Even after my 30 hours of campaign and side missions, I am still left with plenty to do, as God of War boasts a substantial suite of endgame content that will have completionists challenged but rewarded for their hard work. It's a game that I hope to not put down anytime soon, and one that I enjoyed every moment I got to spend with it. God of War is a must-buy, and the best game that you can play this generation. What did you think of God of War? Do you agree? Disagree? Why? Leave a comment below and tell me what you think. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all Should I Buy Games content, and remember, let me waste money so you don't have to.